So I know I've been very negative over a lot of things throughout Call of Duty in the past few years. I mean, in terms of zombies content, campaigns, well, most of the campaigns, not all of them, and even the multiplayers. There's been a lot of stuff I just really haven't been enjoying. But there's one thing that I think is so fantastic this year that just deserves so much praise, and that is, of course, Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer. I haven't really made many videos talking about it, and honestly, it has nothing to do with how I feel about the game. It's just simply the fact that I haven't had much time to really put a lot of hours into it, and therefore I wasn't able to make that many videos on it. But whenever I do get a chance to play it, it is genuinely one of the best multiplayer experiences Call of Duty's ever had, at least definitely within the past 5 years. Sledgehammer Games has been doing an absolutely fantastic job with this year's multiplayer. Like, it's insane how good they're doing, and especially when you compare it to what the campaign and zombies modes are like, it's a night and day difference. The campaign this year was terrible, and in my opinion, the zombies is not very good either. I know a lot of people do like zombies this year, and I'm glad they do. Me personally, not a big fan, but the multiplayer has so many amazing things going for it right now, and it all has to do with Sledgehammer Games just being so fantastic at community feedback, listening to what people want, and just delivering on it. And they're delivering a ton of content all the while. And I just want to spend this video going over those few things, and we're also going to talk about the few things I don't like about the multiplayer currently right now, the things that I think are plaguing it. But there are so many amazing things. So let's start off with just the gameplay. Of course, the gameplay ever since the beginning of this game coming out, it's been amazing with the slow time to kill, the fast movement, and just generally speaking, just every basic gameplay element of this game is solid. You have really good mechanics all around. It is a massive improvement over last year's game. I don't think it's the best mechanics we've ever seen in Call of Duty. I would still take Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Cold War. I would take most of those games over this in terms of the gameplay mechanics, but I still think the mechanics themselves are very great and very solid all around. The maps are fantastic, and that was one of my biggest negatives with the game at launch. I didn't like the fact that we only had Modern Warfare 2 remasters. Not because I hate the Modern Warfare 2 remasters, it's just the maps, I've already played them before. You know, I've already played those maps so many times, so I felt immediately disinterested in the fact that we're just going to have a bunch of remasters from 2009 back. And some of those maps aren't that great either, so it was just all around not a good map pool. But then throughout the DLC, Sledgehammer has hit us with so many new maps, it's insane. So first of all, of course, they did carry over some of the Modern Warfare 2 maps from the previous year, and some of those maps are really good. I love Crown Raceway, Mercado Las Almas, Farm 18, like a couple of those maps actually work really well in this game, and I'm very happy to see them. And then of course, Sledgehammer has been dropping a bunch of brand new original 6v6 maps, and they've been dropping a lot. At this point in the life cycle, we're only like 5 or 6 months into the life cycle. There's still, you know, a whole 6 months left of it. At this point, we already have 9 brand new original maps made by Sledgehammer Games. And guess what? Every single one of them is good, at least good. Most of them are even amazing. So we haven't had a single below average new map from Sledgehammer, which is fantastic to see. The fact that they were able to just deliver all these amazing maps. And then they also delivered some remasters as well from other games. Like, of course, they just delivered Greenhouse, which is a remake of one of the maps from Vanguard. And then of course you have Das Haus coming back from Vanguard as well, which is really cool. And something so cool they've been doing with these new maps is that they actually are adding a lot of very small maps. Now, this is one of my biggest issues with Call of Duty in the past few years, that essentially we just keep getting these shipment 24/7 playlists, and that's all people ever want to play. And I kept saying we either need to remove the playlist and only have it be available at some points in the life cycle, or just add in more maps that are similar in size to shipment, so at least when you play those 24/7 playlists, it's not just shipment all the time. And Sledgehammer actually did that this year. There's a small map playlist 24/7, and it has a bunch of small maps. Currently, there's 6 small maps in there. You have Shipment, you have Rust, you have Das Haus, you have Stash House, you have Meat, and now you have the new Emergency map. And they're all not necessarily as small as Shipment, but they're all relatively small enough for them to really work well in a 24/7 playlist that allows you to play these really small maps to just grind your guns and just, if you want to get a lot of kills in a single game. I personally prefer playing those smaller maps. I know a lot of people don't, and they act like these maps are brainless and there's like no strategy behind them. I don't really agree with that. I agree with that in like Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 2, because those games' mechanics with like the fast time to kill and the slower movement, it just doesn't really work well with those small maps. But when you do have a slower time to kill, especially this time to kill is more important than anything, I think these small maps actually do have a sense of control to it, and I actually do find myself really enjoying and finding different strategies you can do on these maps, and I think it's just more fun than the other maps. I still play the other maps from time to time, but I prefer playing the small map playlist, and I'm not forced to just play Shipment again and again and again. Now I have 6 different maps to choose from, and I'm assuming they're going to keep adding more. We're probably going to have at least 10 maps in this small map playlist by the end of the year, which is absolutely awesome. I also love how there's so many things to unlock and work towards in this game in terms of grinds. I've always said grinds are great, but they can't be the only thing to do in the game, and thankfully that's not really the case here. The game itself is really fun just at a base level, but yeah, you have tons of things to grind for. There's so many camos. There's the most amount of mastery camos we've ever had in COD history. I haven't earned all of them yet. I'm kind of going for them just very casually. I'm not like jumping into it too fast. Like I said, I don't really have the time for that, but eventually I'm sure I will get them because they're not too hard to get. And there's a bunch of other things to unlock, like for example in the armory, and they're consistently adding new items in the armory. Like every week there's these new aftermarket parts, for example. So many aftermarket parts are being added there, and these really cool unique attachments that completely change how guns function to the point where like the gun is a new gun essentially. So those are really cool, and they even add a bunch of new perks. They're adding new equipment frequently. There's a lot of DLC items they keep throwing into the game that are free to earn, which just makes the game so much more exciting. There's so many weekly challenges you can work towards too, which add to the armory system. That's how you actually unlock the different items in the armory. There's all these weekly events they keep doing, which give you these unique camos. Yeah, they're not allowing you to get as many cool cosmetics from, for example, the battle pass or the bundle shop for free. Unfortunately, you can't get those for free. I wish you could, but regardless, there's still a bunch of things to work towards at the end of the day, and it definitely makes the game more replayable. But of course, the game is not perfect. There are still things that are plaguing it. The main one being, of course, skill-based matchmaking. I feel like skill-based matchmaking is such an old topic at this point. Like, we've been talking about this since 2019, and I'm honestly sick of it at this point, but it is still a problem. It is still something that negatively affects this game, and it does make it so it's kind of hard to play for too many hours at a time. You kind of get tired of the game after like an hour because you're just, you know, you're going to get into those really annoying lobbies where, you know, all you got to do is just get a couple of really good games in, and then you know that next game is going to be, you're going to be playing against the best players of all time. And it's just not fun to know that your skill is essentially being manipulated just based on the fact that you're getting put into harder lobbies as you do better, and then you get put into easier lobbies as you do worse. I don't like it. I think most people don't like it. I hope they make a big change to it. And obviously the whole disbanding lobbies thing is also really frustrating. So all of that, huge problem. I've also felt like Modern Warfare 3 has had a big problem with packet bursts and overall just bad connection. I have really good Wi-Fi. It works just fine on every other game I play. But for some reason, Modern Warfare 3 recently has been very buggy. Like way more buggy than I feel like it should be. A lot of lag, a lot of bad connection, and it's definitely a problem. I felt the same way with Modern Warfare 2 last year. I honestly think these past 2 Call of Duties have been the worst optimized Call of Duties of all time, which really worries me for the future of Call of Duty because all the future Call of Duties are going to get put on this exact same application. And I honestly think it's a problem with the Call of Duty HQ application itself. I think that's where the bugginess is coming from, because if I go back to Vanguard or Modern Warfare 2019 or Cold War, there's really no problems anymore. So I don't know what's going on here, but those packet bursts, the bad connection, all that, it really needs to stop. And lastly, the UI is terrible. This is one that like, I can't get over how bad it is. I really can't. It is such a bad UI, and it makes so many systems in the game a lot worse than they actually are by default. For example, the gunsmith. I don't think the gunsmith in this game is terrible. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was last year. There's definitely a lot better balance to the attachments. There's definitely more unique, variety of attachments you can go with. But the problem is the UI is so terrible that making gunsmith weapons is just miserable. It is a miserable experience to the point where I don't even bother half the time. Most of the time, I just put on 5 random attachments and call it a day and just hope for the best. Or I just use the blueprint attachments. If I have a blueprint on the gun, I just use whatever attachments the blueprint comes with. Because I just don't feel like sitting there scrolling through an endless list of attachments in a really shitty UI that's really hard to navigate. Even for me, who I played a lot of this game, yeah, it's still really hard to navigate. They've made some changes like these different filters that let you filter the attachments and stuff, but honestly, those don't really help in the way that they should. And they're honestly not even a very obvious feature. A lot of people aren't even going to know that exists. But I think there's a much better way to fix this. Just make the UI vertical. I don't know what's their obsession with making everything horizontal. A horizontal UI is not good in gaming. It is just known to be not good. You want to fit as much stuff on the screen at once. And unfortunately, the way this UI works is that you just can't do that. There's so many attachments in the game, and that's what's making the UI as bad as it is. But if you have all these items, just put every item vertically, just like they did back in Black Ops Cold War, Vanguard, and Modern Warfare 2019. All the items should appear on the screen when you look for an attachment. It should appear vertically and then down in a big list. And you can probably fit all the attachments on one page that way, and you can just easily look at them just from there. But the system that they have now, I have to go through this long scrolling process, and it's just so hard to find what you need. And when your game's all buggy and laggy, it just makes it 10 times worse. It's a terrible UI. It's really awful, and it definitely does make making classes miserable experience. And I really hope they fix this for next year's Call of Duty game. Overall, I'm really proud with Sledgehammer Games this year. I think they're doing a fantastic job, and I cannot wait till they get to make their own Call of Duty that is not held back whatsoever by any other studio, a Call of Duty they can just focus on for a full 3 years. Hopefully that'll be their next game. I really hope it's like an advanced warfare type game with, you know, advanced movement and everything like that. That would be really exciting to see, but clearly they have a lot of passion. I want to see them make a zombies mode too. I know they've apparently been put on Modern Warfare Zombies as Treyarch has left, but I don't really necessarily think they're going to have enough time to do anything too crazy with that mode. So I don't know. Or they'll listen to the fans completely and give us an onslaught mode. That would be awesome, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. I just want to see them make their own game from scratch that has, you know, a full development cycle, because we really haven't gotten that from Sledgehammer since COD World War II, really. I mean, Vanguard definitely was rushed. It definitely wasn't made in a full 3 years. So that wasn't the full extent of what Sledgehammer could do. And even then, I still think Vanguard has a lot of promising elements to it. I just think the design itself, well, it was following too much in the footsteps of Modern Warfare 2019, which is what led to a lot of the actual game design not being too great. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you guys all in my next one. Peace out.